Okay. So again, good afternoon to most of you, I guess, and good morning if you are joining us from the west part of the world. So inshallah, we're going to start our program now as scheduled, and the meeting is recorded. Those who cannot join us, they can, inshallah, watch the recording. We'll share recording with them. So let me do the screen sharing and introduce you the overall program, then we'll start right after that. Okay, is my screen visible to everyone?
Yes, it is.
Okay, perfect. So let me introduce myself and our team members. My name is Najati Aiden. So I'm actually with a team of several people, but today we have Sister Uzma Ahmed with us. She is the head of the teacher training program at Institute of Integrated Knowledge. And we have Sabah Irshad with us, and we'll have also some teachers that who attended the program that will join us later on. This is the program outline for today. I will, first of all, there will be 4 parts. So part 1 will talks about the problem and the solution that we offer through 5D thinking model. So we call 5D thinking for transformative teaching. So the part 1, I will try to make case that what is really in 5D and what is the problem, how we offer a solution. In part 2, Sister Uzma Ahmed will present a case, a topic that written based on 5D thinking model. So you can directly see how the model work through that. And part 3 will have teacher testimonials from 3 teachers, 1 recorded, 2 live. And they will share with you what they gained from the teacher training before. And part 4, we'll briefly talk about the teacher training program at the end of this month in Kuala Lumpur, what are the content of the program, the expected outcome, and the stage of the program as we design. So with that, I will start part 1. That is my presentation. So essentially, I call it science, scientisms, and signs of God. That is the mainly summary of what I want to share with you. And essentially, the model that we have been working on for almost 10 years is a solution to the problem of, scientisms or the problem of secularization in education in general. And you can see that in our kind of motto, we say that is a model that helps you to discover signs of God and develop sound character. But now we're going to make a case what is the problem and how the model can help on this regard. This is the outline of my presentation. So talk about science and God, and talk about the problem in terms of separation of creation and the creator, and talks about scientism as a new magic, and then talks about 5D thinking as a way of seeing science as a science of God. So that is basically the 4th section of my presentation. So first, those are 2 little brain exercise to just think quietly. Normally we'll have a discussion interaction. Given the time shortage, I will just want you to quietly think on that. This is a 2 well-known scientists. One passed away, I think, 2-3 years ago, and the other still alive. And Stephen Hawking says that before we understood science, it was natural to believe that God created the universe, but now science offers a more convincing explanation, which means it doesn't make sense to really believe in God because we have an answer through science. And Francis Collins he was the head of NIH in US for many years. He says, no, it's not actually. The God of Bible is also the God of genome. He was the head of genome projects, and God can be found in cathedral or in a lab. So 2 different views. And we really look at it, who is the dominant one? And I think the answer is very clear. And I will show you some survey results clearly show that the dominant one is, unfortunately, the first one is not the second one. The second one is very exceptional, rare cases in this regard. This is, when we look at the survey, this is the survey done in US. And remember, if historically, US is a very religious society, those who seek freedom for religion escape from Europe to go and exercise the freedom for their religion in US. And this very historically religious society, look, the survey shows that still 83% of them believe in God. But when it comes to scientists, only 33% of them believe in God, and the rest do not. That's either, agnostic or atheist. So it's a very clear difference between general public and scientists. And essentially, the new atheisms is mostly based on science. In a way, they say in science we trust, we don't trust in God, because science is based on data. And then this is the one on the left, you can see it says, in God we trust, all other must bring data, which implies that if you believe in God, that it's not database, it's not proven, it's just your belief. But if you're scientists, so it's based on data, it's absolutely, objective, reliable way. So therefore, you see, the idea here is that we need to really look at faith and fact. And the fact, as discovered by science, clearly show us that faith is a something of all days, not needed anymore, as Hawking mentioned. And this is a very, interesting map showing the essential. Let me go back. Down. Yeah, so you can see here the world's newest major religion is actually atheism and agnosticism. And the data is based on the surveys looking at what is the second largest religion. So you can see in North America, in Europe, in Australia, it's mainly agnosticism or atheism. It's Europe used to be called as a Christian club, not anymore. It's better to call it an atheist club in this regard. So it's basically atheism in rise everywhere. And that is an ad in London and saying that there's probably no God. Now stop worrying and enjoy your life. So they try to not those activist atheists not only keep their atheism for themselves, they try to publicly share with others and encourage others as well to accept or follow their way of belief. Now, you might say we are different as Muslims, and that's therefore I want to share survey results for Muslims here. This is a very interesting group in U.S. and North America. They call ex-Muslims of North America. There's a website for that one, and they did a very comprehensive survey among those individuals who left Islam. And you can see the survey, those who attended the survey, mostly from South Asia and Middle East and Sub-Saharan Africa, that are largely coming from Muslim countries. But once they, migrate to the land of freedom, so they kind of see that they need to free themselves from religion as well, from faith as well. That's the question here. Well, why? What is the reason behind that? So when you look at that, most of those individuals who participate in the survey are highly educated, 17% with PhD, 22% with master degree. You can see almost 40% with the graduate educations, and then 43 bachelor degree, highly educated individuals, which means very informed or knowledgeable people. And when they were asked what really contributed to their decision to live Islam, you can see here conflict between Islam and science account for 93% of the individuals. That basically if you look at, some says that the primary factor, some the contributing factor, but if you add up them both, basically 93% of people who left Islam, they claim it was because they did not see Islam and science are compatible with each other. There is a conflict between the two. So which means the problem is not only in the West for, let's say, Christians and people of other faith, is for Muslim as well. So this is a very interesting book that pointing to the problem in education in general, written by former dean of Harvard College. He was the dean for 30 years at Harvard. And after that, once he reflect on his life, he published this book called Excellence Without Soul. And I think this is an excellent book describing the current state of youth and humanity. And he argues that we at a good university provide the technical skill, make them to be an expert in a particular area, but we actually do not give any soul. So in a way, they're like a robot, like a machine that getting certain skills alone. So that is what we call the crisis of modern times. That's basically in crisis at a moral level, social level, meaning level, existential level. That is a major problem that we see in the West and increasingly in the East as well. Now the question, what is the cause of that? What is the source of the problem? We think that the problems, the virus is actually that there is something that's less visible, and as we call this the virus of deism and atheism, that's ultimately boiled down to the understanding of the existence, which is the problem is in the knowledge, is not ignorance as it was in the past. So therefore, we have to look at the knowledge and see how we can solve that. The Quran describe it very well. We hear a lot as we communicate with schools and educators that we hear complain about, students, they graduate. But actually, Quran describe it using very good analogy. It says, "Alam tara kayfa bismillahir alam tara kayfa daraba Allahu mathalan kalimatan tayyibatan ka shajaratin tayyibatin أصلها ثابت وفرعها في السماء." It uses analogy. It says that a good word is like a good tree that with a deep root and stand very firm. So when we look at this good words, and in many tafsir, they call it iman. But iman is actually a form of knowledge. We get it in more general term. We say it's all about knowledge and education. So if our students, when they graduate from schools, if they cannot stand against a tsunami of modern times, the problem they face in life, if it make them to leave their faith, according to this ayah and the other ayah coming, it's mainly because of the problem in foundation in terms of firm knowledge. If the faith is based on firm knowledge, they can stand against those, otherwise they will lose that. And this description of such tree, how we can give food with the power and will of Allah. And this is, and then the ayah continue, the verse continues and says, the describe basically the bad education or bad knowledge. It's like a bad tree without really roots, and it can easily be knocked down with a tsunami of, let's say, materialism, naturalism, scientism, positivism, allism, hedonism, whatever, that we have many of this in modern time. That is the problem, and therefore we need to really look at the root and foundation to see how we can solve this problem. Now, what we, in this second part, what we want to really share with you, that we think the root cause of the problem or the virus is all about separation of creation and creator. That we call this as a new form of secularization. And if you read Charles Taylor, he described three types of secularization. And we call this the fourth type of secularization. We call it existential secularization, in which that that we try to understand the existence or the creation without creator. We separate them from each other. It's not like a secularization in political sense that we just separate state and church, or religion and state. Here we're separating creator and creation, and understanding creation without creator. That, we think, is the root cause of the problem. Now, again, little brain exercise. Bertrand Russell was a famous mathematician, Nobel laureate, and atheist of last century. And he famously says, he says that believing God is like a believing in teapot circling in the solar system. You can neither prove it nor disprove it. It's your choice. So matter is just a, it's a personal belief without any evidence. Therefore, this is nice when it says, I'm little teapot steaming hot and hot. I'm orbiting the sun. Try and prove that I am not. So this is a nice way of like putting his argument. Now, that's actually very common things that when it comes to the belief, they think that most people think that belief is just a subjective acceptance of a supreme being. And based on, let's say, their source, whatever the source will be, like Quran or Bible or whatever. So they think this is not a matter of evidence or proof that is different than, let's say, scientific knowledge. It's very interesting. Muslim scholars, Said Nursi, in a way, he used a different analogy. He says, no, believing in God is not like believing in a teapot. Believing in God is like believing in the existence of the sun during the daytime with no cloud above. He says that how could you deny that there is a sun up there when it's shining everywhere? The only way for you to deny the existence of the sun, he argues, that either you are blind or you're blindfolded. So therefore you cannot see that. But absolutely, the evidence of God is overwhelming. It's everywhere because he is revealing himself and manifesting, and the sign of his existence everywhere. That's in a way is really basic. It's a way of how we try to bring the concept of God into the classroom through science. Now, we look at the science. Obviously, the reason they say science is based on evidence, because the idea here is that science can explain what's and how and why questions. So we used to think that science can address what's and how, but why you need Allah, you need a, in this case, faith or religion to explain why question. Now, in 5D thinking model, we actually think that science can only answer what question, and you can never answer how questions without creator. So you can explain what is the component of water in terms of hydrogen and oxygen, and you can describe the process of, let's say, the creation of water, but you can never explain how we get water from hydrogen and oxygen without bringing God into the equation. That's our argument. So in this case, in 5D model, we argue that science can only describe what is out there based on observation, but we need to bring creator into our explanation to actually explain how this is happening and why this is happening. So in this regard, that is really essential. We look at the science and understand what is the science. So science is study of change, is study of causes, is study of effect, essentially. If we look at it, the question here, can really science explain the cause of what we see as an effect? Can really science tell us how the change is happening, or is it just describing the change? That is really the main issue. So this discussion is very old one. If you go to the Greeks, and Aristotle is very famous in his argument of the causes, understanding. Let's say you have a table you see on the picture. What is really, how did we get this table? Aristotle argues that you need to have 4 causes to have the table. You need to have a material cause, means you have a wood and metals. You need to have the formal calls, that design, the plan for that. And then you need to have the efficient calls. That means someone with the power and ability skills, they can actually form those metal and wood based on the plan into the table. But he said more important than all, you need to have final calls. That means someone basically with intention, will to make that. Now, unfortunately, in modern times, science completely ignore the final cause. There's no need for telos, which is the no purpose behind the things in the universe. And science reduce the efficient cause, the formal cause, the material cause, all to the matter and the interaction of the matter. What I mean, the materialistic scientific explanation. Like if we ask, how do we get in an apple? Or apple tree. And the secular explanation is very clear that as long as you have an atoms, depends on how you look at it, whether at the physical level, the chemistry or biology. So you can explain the existence of, let's say, an apple tree through certain material causes. And then through certain laws and the forces, as long as you have those particles that we got out of the Big Bang, and they have certain forces that can interact and ultimately give you the tree and give you the apple and an apple seed. So there is absolutely no room or no need to bring God into the picture in this regard. So we see basically the whole scientific endeavor is based on understanding creation without bringing creator into the picture at all. And unfortunately, we see even many modern Muslim scientists believe in the same things because they think science is science, religion is religion. They should be thought separately, but we should not mix them up because we can understand the creation without really mentioning creator. And in the back of our mind, we can just say, oh, this is all the work of creator, that's all. Or why we need to really, in physics and chemistry and biology, let's say, bring God into the classroom. So we actually heard a lot of objection to our efforts or integrating creation and creator in a science class as well, or in education in general. So in this case, we define and describe the problem is this connection of creation from creator and misconnection of the creation to what we call this, the Quranic term is a taghut, or we call it this is a secular trios, a nature, cause, and chance. So essentially that you can explain everything through those three things, that you don't need to, you don't need to bring them into the explanation. I get a message in the chat says they cannot hear. Is there any problem in hearing?
No, it's fine. No
Okay.
problem.
Hear you okay?
Good. Second. Okay. So, and this connection actually happened all discipline, mainly, unfortunately, though Isaac Newton was a religious guy, but Newtonian physics in a way that sets the beginning of this connection and start with physical science. We see that because you can explain through the laws and the matters, you don't need a God to understand the physical universe. And then we saw with Darwin that now we can understand the life without God, living beings, how they come into existence through evolution. No need to really bring God and creator into the picture. And so we see in the political science, John Locke and the separation of church and states, and we see in economics, and I'm originally an economist. I have PhD in economics and education, and Adam Smith is, I think, in this regard, did a very good job to really looking at the economics affairs without really mentioning anything about God. You just look at the agents and try to understand their behavior. Why do you have to really even think about God when you're going to really, teach or talk about economics. And again, we see with the Sigmund Freud, that's why that continue. Now we look at even the human psyche and we'll explain everything. There's no need for soul, and so we can explain everything through certain magical concepts, and therefore no need for God. So in a way that basically this process that the world normally, when you see creator and creation are connected, then you submit to the creator. But now the disconnection basically make people, rather than submitting to God, submitting to the self, because ego is boosted to the level like a pharaoh. Everyone believe in themselves, and this is one of the very first message that even in Islamic school, unfortunately, we see that they are given, like, believe in yourself. And then basically, instead of being Abdullah, then they become Abdul all except Allah. That's Abdul nature, Abdul causes, Abdul chance. That is what we see it is the problem. So it starts with disconnection and resulted all this problem of misconnection in this regard. So essentially, we see a very similar parallel situation with Christian Trinity and the secular trios. The Christian Trinities, as we know, they try to really, have the worldview based on this, understand the Father, Son, and Holy Spirit. And that trio, in a way, is replaced with the secular version and with materialism, and basically when everything is just nothing but composed of matter and use just a bunch of atoms, that's all. And in this case, that the secular trinity replaced basically father with mother. Now instead of father, we have a mother nature, and instead of son, we have cause and effect. And instead of Holy Ghost, and now we have an Holy Chance that can actually, those we call this trios is sufficient to explain and understands the existence and becomes the basically basis for our understanding of the universe. And therefore, they openly say nature is enough. We don't need to really bring God into the classroom. Now, I want to, in this part, the third part, talks about how science get to the level and use and explain scientism separate than science, and then explain how scientism is a kind of new magic. Because again, it's very important for us to really separate science and scientism. Scientism is when we think science is answer to everything and science can answer all questions, no need for God or no need for any other explanation. That's a scientism. And in this regard, basically, I see enormous analogy between this and magic that the Quran describes in detail when you read it. And so, like, I think there are 56 ayah talks about magic, and most is magic of, and that prophet, the people of Pharaoh and Prophet Moses. So when you look at in in that story, what we'll see that basically at that time of the Prophet Musa, magic was very common. As you know, the Quran mentioned how the magic was taught to human being, and it seems like they took it really to the high level and was very, very advanced in magic. And when Prophet Musa came and tried to guide them, and it's an interesting part that he came up with something what's almost magical. So, and he did some things that he had this, staff of stick or staff of Moses. He will basically throw on the ground, it will turn to snakes. So, and what we understand that basically the Prophet Moses, to defeat those magicians, he actually did something that we call it miracle, but that miracle was very similar to the magic of the magician, but was very clear to actually falsify, show the false side of this magic. And the interesting part that when the Quran describes it in details, and when Pharaoh invited all those big magicians and had them to have the show, and after that, when the Prophet Moses started to throw his sticks and on the ground, and stick turned to snakes and swallow all the snakes, the fake one. The interesting part the Quran describes it was the magician who first actually bowed down and made a sajda and says, we now believe in the prophet the God of Moses. So I think that is exactly, it's very interesting, give us a lesson. In a way, I say the magic of modern time is science or scientism. So we need to, rather than denying that, we need to really show, take this, go again, get the science, but actually shows the falsehood within science, that is scientism, that's the way that we can only perhaps be successful against that. I just give you one example. I was recently reading that Stephen Wolfram was very famous scientist, and he is Nobel laureate. And I was actually amazed the way that he tried to describe this computational way of understanding the existence. And on the right side, you can see the certain images he's come up with to see how he came up with the word called the ruliyat. The ruliyat is the basic rules that is behind all the existence in the universe. He argues that finally they discovered those rules, that now you can understand the existence, just going from those basic rules. And you can go and actually look at his talk. When you listen to, I recently listened to one of his TED talk. It's like a magician's talking. There are thousands of people that are applauding this guy because he provide explanation of the existence in a way as if like you can really understand all these things without God. You don't need God. And he says, this is a quote from him, he says, we are nothing but a bunch of floating atoms in the universe. So therefore, we can just discover those laws and see how those atoms interact. And the magical explanation of scientism is essentially through certain concepts like, let's say, metamorphosis, emerging property, or nature laws, or mother nature. So essentially, there are certain concepts or certain way that they will use, and it's like work like a magic. It seems like when you look at this caterpillar turning a butterfly, and then when you see how they explain it, as if the magic can actually tell you what is happening, while in reality, there's nothing short of miracle. Like, let's say water, when you get, look at the water, you say hydrogen and oxygen come together, make a water. They say, okay, the hydrogen and oxygen as the cause of the water. So there's a causation. But then you say that a property of water doesn't exist with the hydrogen and oxygen. Oh, they say this is emergent properties, like I call it hocus pocus properties, like magic. They come together, suddenly hydrogen and oxygen gain a new properties when they combine, get together or in a turn to water. So in that case, then you say, how come this property turn out to be the best for living being? Oh, they say, oh, this is very lucky that the hydrogen and oxygens really give certain properties that end up helping a living being. So you can see clearly that they explain this through, the water, through the secular tree of cause, nature, and chance. Now, what can we do? Let me explain the very last part. What should we do? Should we reject science in this case? No, our argument is that no, we shall not reject science. We should reject the ideology embedded with the science, as the prophet Moses actually showed the miracles, similar to magic, but actually revealing the false side of magic. We should use science, but we should actually filter this ideology within science to, in this case, convince the others in terms of the true source of the existence. That's what we try to do in 5D thinking model. We say it is a model of seeing or using science as a science of God. How we do that, very briefly, I will explain, and Sister Usma will give you an example of that. Basically, I want to tell you through, let's say, through a story. Let's say you are a guest in a house. This is an AI just gave it to me this morning. I asked AI, I want to really visualize that. You see the technology, how great it is. So let's say you are a guest And then in the morning, you wake up in your room, you find out there's an apple pie and an apple, you see? And you start to think about where does apple pie come from? And let's think that you happen to really love apple pie. That's your favorite, let's say, food. Not only that, let's say you have a disease that apple pie is like medicine for you. It's like, let's say, it's like a insulin. You have to have it every day. Okay. So, but amazingly, you wake up in your guest house and you find in your room such apple pie. You say, where does apple pie come from? And now those are the option given to you. Which one would you choose? Oh, Mother Ghost made it. Or maybe wind pushed the ingredients in the kitchen and make an apple pie. Or maybe ingredients themselves really just come together and decided to work together in a precise manner to turn into an apple pie. Or maybe there was a recipe of apple pie in the kitchen that really make those ingredients to turn into an apple pie. Or maybe I'm just a lucky person and Lady Luck came and actually make an apple pie for me. Or maybe the house cats went and make it. Obviously, all of those options are complete nonsense that you can easily, you don't have to have a PhD to know that an apple pie cannot come from any one of those. But unfortunately, that now people with PhD from MIT and Harvard, they will reject the very last option and do everything to tell us that the previous options are the explanation or are the possible source of the apple pie that we have. That is really the sad part. So essentially, Mother Ghost is a Mother Nature. Wind, ingredient recipes, all the cause and effect. Lady Luck is a chance. So the host is the creator, as analogically speaking. So in that case, basically, so the idea in a secular science is that, if you happen to find such apple pie, so you are not allowed to think that it is a work of host who knows, who cares about you, loves you, who makes for you. You should think about all other option, all complete nonsense option, and you should think them and accept them as a very objective, let's say, scientific way. Now, when we really look at an apple pie in a 5D thinking, which we use an analogy, we say, okay, let's think apple and apple pie. Apple pie is a simple apple pie is made of 4 ingredients, actually. But you have to really put them in a precise measure to make it. I never made it, but maybe I need to try to really make it myself. But I can assure you, given my experience of other food, that you have to really know the recipe in terms of how to mix them up. Otherwise, you cannot get apple pie, even though it's very simple, 4 ingredients. So if we see apple pie for sure, you will say it must be the work of someone with consciousness, life, knowledge, and power. It can be in any other way around. This is a book, a very interesting. I just recently read it, and actually I'm still reading. I haven't finished that one. He's a physics professor at the Cambridge University, and the title of the book is "How to Make an Apple Pie from Scratch." Okay, so essentially, the book argues scientifically that each slice of apple pie contains the entire universe because each slice of apple pie is dynamically connected to entire universe, and perhaps the whole universe is, in this case, it work like a tree to give you a single apple. That's what the science says in this regard. So but again, what we try to, our argument here, and in that book, basically, Harry Cleave made it, he wrote the book very nicely. He starts from apple pie. He says how when you try to understand what is really ingredients of apple pie, he says you will find out first there are 4, but then if you really go deep, use your scientific knowledge, you'll find 4 billion times billions atoms. Now imagine that you're going to eat an apple pie made of 4 billion times billion ingredients in a precise measure. And you're gonna say it just happened by itself. You're gonna say it's just like, remember, this is just we talked this one in terms of 4 ingredients. Now we are talking about an apple pie or an apple made of 4 billion times billion ingredients. And the question, how did we get them? And not only that, Stephen Wolfram, I mentioned to you those Nobel laureate, he says, actually, the quantum physics reveals that the ingredients of human beings and also Apple and everything is being renewed every moment. The quote is exact phrase from his TED talk. He says, we are made of different atoms of space at every successive moment. Basically saying that, every moment you get a new body. Every moment, the entire universe gets a new body. Every moment, the entire universe is destroyed and reconstructed again and again. So it's not an apple pie with 4 ingredients. It's an apple with 4 billion times billion ingredients, but is actually being made every moment again and again. And you're asking, how this come into existence? What is the source of this? Now, you see, the science is actually revealing what is not visible to us. A scientist who is blind and who is biased, that eliminates the choice of the creator, telling us all these amazing things just happen by itself, or the work of nature, or the work of chance. So our job here is not to deny the work of scientists, to deny their ideology, actually to embrace the discovery as the discovery of the science of God and try to understand the attribute of God through that. So in a way, we use this analogy, we say, science, let's say, if you want to really look at the light bulb, you never know how we get the light. And then science tells you, you know what, it's actually easy. There's a light switch, there's a wire, and there's a bulb. As long as they are connected together, you click on the light switch, you get the light. Click on the light switch, off, light comes, on, light comes. So which means the light comes from the light switch, or the light comes from the wire and light switch and the bulb. And that we think it is good description of what is visible, but it's absolutely misleading because there is much more beyond that we call that you need to bring the power station to understand the source of light. So in this case, basically in 5D, we try to go beyond that and explain it, the light, the source of the light, as, we don't have time, but there's an ayah in Quran very clearly, very amazingly refer to this bulb in one way, but also refer to the existence and says that, the existence like the lamp in the example, its source is neither of the east nor the west, which means that the source of existence is beyond the existence, is not within the existence. As the artist cannot be within the art, the creator cannot be within the creation, but the creation cannot exist without creator. That is, in a way, that basically the other analogy we use, like what you see on the TV and remote control. Science can explain how the remote control could be used, and you can see what the program on the TV. But it's misleading to say the remote control is the cause of what you see on the TV. There's an association, but no causation. So our argument is that the scientific discovery about the universe, explaining the association, the causation from the Quranic perspective, is God alone. So therefore, we cannot understand the cause of anything without bringing the creator into the equation, which means that we need to read the creation in the name of God, as the very first ayah remind us or ask us to do so. Iqra bismi rabbika alladhi khalaq. So we need to look at the creation in the name of God, in connection with God, as the act or work of God. And that's what we try to do in 5D. Basically, we look at everything as the creation. So we say there is, in reality, no causation. There is constant creation. What we see is an association, and everything's come from kun fayakun, that God is directly causing everything's creating them. And بِيَدِهِ مَلَكُوتُ كُلِّ شَيْءٍ, that means in everything there is a mulk and malakut. There's a physical dimension and a malakut dimension, and the malakut dimension is under direct control of the creator. So in this regard, we define the problem in the modern science to look at the existence through the 4D lens, which is 3 dimension of space and 1 dimension of time. And we want to bring the 5th dimension, that is the Malakut dimension, as the Surah Yasin very explicitly mentioned. So in this regard, in Malakut dimension means that you cannot understand the creation without creator. He is the one that directly creating and causing everything. So our model is based on that one, and we aim to take the reader to a journey that they can discover the 5th dimension, through which they can feel the presence of God and strengthen their faith and develop a good, sound characters. The 5 dimensions is explore, compare, question, connect, and appreciate, or we call it advanced level analytical, analogical, critical thinking, meditative, and moral thinking. So 5 thinking, but for the grade 1 to 6, we name in a simple term to explain, to make it easy for them to understand. So we put God at the center of everything and try to see how we can see the connection and communication. And the objective is to really take the readers or students to go through the creation, ascend, in a way, analogically speaking, like a miraj imani, the ascend through the creation and see the creator behind everything in terms of causing, constantly creating everything from moment to moment. So in this regard, basically, the explore. So we use the scientific knowledge, but we filter the ideology in the knowledge, because science helps us to see what is not visible with the naked eyes. So therefore, we appreciate science, we use science, but we filter ideology. At the second, our model is based on analogy. We compare the man-made with what we call wonders of the universe, because analogy is the best way for us to actually understand, like, let's say we talk about apple pie and an apple. If we can understand an apple pie from our experience, we can truly compare with apple and say an apple can never come into existence without a maker or chef with the knowledge and power and will. So the third one, we do the questioning, critical thinking, like the Prophet Ibrahim is our role model in the Quran, that basically to negate or reject nature, material cause, and chance, in a way that to knock down the taghut of modern times, and in one way to really provide vaccination to those young minds as they go through education and exposed to the secular ideology. They can understand the nonsense ideology embedded into the science. And in the 4th steps, we establish the connection between the creation and creator through interconnectivity and interdependency. And once we do that, then we refer to the divine names and try to see the communication in the creation in the form of the divine names. And finally, in the moral thinking and appreciate steps, that we get the readers to truly understand everything as a customized gift and understand its value and offer a sincere appreciation for that. Once we do that, then we derive the certain character lessons from the subjects. Then we bring Quran and Hadith to make a connection, and we end the journey with the dua. And then we have the activities in our workbooks in terms of to make sure those subjects are understood well. This is the cover page of the 2 books that we already released, and other 5 books is actually now in the process of being ready for publication. And you can see that we titled the books as Science Secrets. So we actually not against science. We think there is a big secret in science, but only if you use a certain lens that through which you can discover the science of God and develop sound character. Okay, I think that is all from me. Now, let me close it. It is this part 2 for Sister Uzma to show you an example of 1.5D topics.
Assalamu alaikum, everyone. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Inshallah, I will go through an example of a topic through the 5D thinking lens. So Professor Najati has just gone through 5 steps: explore, compare, question, connect, and appreciate. So inshallah, through the example, I will explain those steps further, because it's a bit difficult to understand it without an example. And this is a page from one of our books. And when we teach children, obviously we have to be very careful about the kind of language we use. So you'll see the language here is very, very simple, inshallah. But I will explain the concept behind it. So every chapter in the book starts with our learning outcomes. This chapter is about the water cycle, and the title of it is called Raindrops to Rivers, to make it exciting for the children. So in this chapter, the learning outcomes, as you can see, after the lesson, the learners will be able to explore the water cycle, understand that the water cycle cannot make itself, understand that Allah is the maker of the water cycle, learn some names of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, know that the water cycle is a blessing only from Allah, and learn some character lessons. So these are the 5 steps through that we will get these learning outcomes, inshallah. And in the first step, we are exploring the water cycle. We are actually exploring the science. And we are not going to include anything in this which is going to allude to any sort of secular ideology, that it's a self-sustaining cycle. We're not going to discuss it from that perspective. If you look at this topic in textbooks around the world, you will see that the way it is discussed is as if though it's a cycle that just sustains itself. The water is evaporating, the clouds are forming, the wind is blowing the clouds, then the rain is coming down, going into the rivers, and then into the oceans, the seas and the oceans, and that as if it's a self-sustaining cycle. So the way we have done it is we have actually brought in a story, and we have a brother and a sister in the story. So I'll just read it out to you very quickly. Zainab looked at the rain falling into the river. "Where does the rain come from?" Ali asked. Zainab said that it comes through an amazing system. It's like the water pipes in our city. It's even more amazing. It starts with the snow capping in the distant mountains. The snow melts and makes streams. Streams go into the river. The rain and the melted snow fill the rivers. Rivers go into the oceans. The sun helps the water go back into the sky and turn into clouds, and then it rains again. Ali nodded. Zainab felt like a little scientist. She had found out where rivers start. She also learned how it's part of an awesome water delivery system. So through the story, we expect that the teacher will obviously read the story slowly. She will explain the process that is happening. But what we are talking about is just what is happening. We're just saying what's happening. We're not saying why it's happening. So in this step, we're going to just explore the science of the water cycle. What are the different stages of it? And also we have some teacher's notes here. So in this one particular example, we've written that discuss the following points. It's said that life would not exist without water. Your textbook says that water gives us life. Is this true? Is water the source of life or the means of it? Can you think of how you would manage without water? On a hot day when you are thirsty, what would happen if there was no water to drink? You can drink juice, but the juice is also made from water. What about washing your hands when they are dirty, or washing clothes and dishes? Also clarify the steps of the water cycle using a diagram. So this is for the teacher, advice for her, how she can take these questions and really start to explore this topic. And then you can see some fascinating facts that are written here. So in each chapter, we have some fascinating facts. Then we go to our second step. So in our second step, we are using the Quranic methodology of analogy. So we are going to find an analogy. What can we think of that is made by human beings, but is like the water cycle? What would be a comparison? What is something that human beings have made, but is like a water cycle? So the water cycle cleans the seawater and purifies it and sends it into the rivers, and we drink that water. That's what is happening in the water cycle. So in the same way, you can have a desalination plant. So in this particular chapter, we have given the analogy. We're saying, let's compare the water cycle to a desalination plant, cleaning the seawater. So again, we are using Zainab and Ali to discuss this. Zainab and Ali visit a special place called a desalination plant. This plant cleans seawater so we can drink it. They see big machines that are there taking salt out of the water. The teacher told them that the plant is like a water cycle, but gives us fresh water. Unlike the water cycle, the plant uses a lot of energy, and this can be bad for the earth. This can be bad for the environment. Zainab and Ali understood that this plant is useful, but they also understood it's better not to waste water. That way, we won't need to have so many desalination plants that can harm the earth. So here we're saying that this water desalination plant that exists, it does the same thing. It purifies the water, just like is happening in the water cycle. But there are some differences. So in this step, we look for similarities and differences. What's the same and what is different? So obviously, the same thing is that water is being cleaned. But what is different is that there are many machines that are being used. There is a whole structure that you can see. But with the water cycle, there's no structure or no machine that is visible. Then we move on to our third step, where we are critically analyzing this analogy now. We're going to ask the question to find out who made the water cycle. We're going to ask, did the desalination plant make itself? So, you can raise the question with the children that this plant exists, it is cleaning the water, but no one would say that it made itself. That would be a ridiculous question. No, obviously it did not make itself. It was made by many people. Then we go to the water cycle and we say, well, then the sun and the wind and the clouds, they are needed for the water cycle. Do they know how to clean water? Does the sun, the wind, and the clouds, do they have this knowledge that they must clean the water? They must evaporate the water. It must condense, and then it must rain. Can they think and make choices? No, they cannot. So again, we have some teacher's notes here, and we are saying, we're asking the teachers to discuss this point in detail, that desalination plants need engineers to make them work. In the same way, even though the sun helps to make water evaporate and form clouds, it cannot decide when to make it rain. The sun, water, and air do not have minds to make choices. Then we talk about natural laws. Do cars follow traffic rules all by themselves? No, they need drivers to follow the rules. So you have cars on the road, but the cars are not following the rules. It is the driver. So it's clear that the rules and laws alone cannot do anything. So if we say there are natural rules and laws, then they alone cannot do anything. What is it that makes them work? How can natural laws make water rise, form clouds, and fall as rain? So then we ask the children to think about these points. Did you know that river water is okay to drink, but seawater is too salty? So we look here at the perfection of the water cycle, and also how water is perfect for so many things. So who made this for us? Who made it perfect? Who made it drinkable? Who made it who made this the thing that we need for every single aspect of our life? When we don't have water, we're in trouble. So who gave this to us? We're still on this process of discovery. You'll notice that we're not telling the children that Allah is the creator of the water cycle. We're not telling them. We are asking them to think and discover it for themselves through this example. In the fourth step, then, we are going to show interconnectivity of the water cycle with the entire universe and the interdependency. So here we're saying water is connected to everything. The sun, the sea, wind, and clouds are all part of the water cycle. Water helps keep the earth not too hot and not too cold. It gives homes to many animals and plants in the oceans, rivers, and lakes. Plants also need water to grow. They drink water from the ground through their roots. Animals drink water to keep their bodies working properly. Water helps us to digest food and stay cool. So water is needed for all living things. This means that the maker of water is also the maker of all living things and everything that is on the earth and the earth itself. So it is only Allah who could know that we all need water. And it is only Allah who could have the power to make water. So here we are making some conclusions about the creator of the water cycle, because we know there is a maker for it, because like the desalination plant cannot make itself, the water cycle cannot make itself. So who is the maker? It is the one who is all powerful, all knowledgeable. And then we go to seeing how the divine names are reflected in this topic, how we can through water know Allah, know this creator. So we know that water in rivers, we see water in rivers and we see it in rain, we see it in oceans. And we know that it is needed for life. So then that tells us that the maker of water must be the one who is the giver of life. He is Al-Muhi, right? Then we can see that when we drink clean water, it makes us feel good. And this means that the one who made the water for us must be very kind, but must be very merciful. So he is Ar-Rahman. And there's enough water for everyone, every plant and animal. So this means that whoever made the water takes care of us continuously. So he's the sustainer. He is Ar-Rabb. And rain helps plants to grow and makes the earth and everything on it happy. It shows us that Allah is kind. So again, we see the kindness, but this time we are focusing on the attribute of Ar-Rahim. And then we know that water makes us happy, makes us comfortable. It helps us to think of Allah as loving, because if we're very, very thirsty, for example, and you don't get water for some time, and finally you get water, like for example, after you have been fasting, the feeling you get of drinking that water makes you feel love for the one who gave it to you. And that is al-wudud. So this was our fourth step. So we have explored, we have compared, we have questioned, and now we have connected this water to the entire universe and understood that the maker of this water must be the maker of the entire universe. And he is the one who has all these amazing attributes. He is Allah. So now it's time to, in the fifth step, appreciate. It's time to think about how amazing the water cycle is, that we see it's a gift for us. And we ask the children to think of a world without water. There would be no lakes, no oceans, no rainbows, no flowers. Water helps flowers to bloom. It gives fish a place to swim. We splash in puddles for fun. What if water couldn't clean things? Imagine cleaning dirty hands without water. So in this step, we're basically making them realize the necessity of water and see its blessings. And then we ask them to be thankful for this, because if something is a blessing and it's a gift, then it must be something that we are thankful for. So we thank Allah, we have gratitude, we appreciate Allah as the one who gave us this water, and we thank him for it. And then we do this process of dhikr, fikr, and shukr. When we, through this entire model, we have done this, that we have, we remember that only Allah is the one who can make the water for all living things. No one else can make it. And we have reflection, that we think about the useful qualities of water, what we would do without it. And then we give thanks to Allah for this gift that quenches our thirst, cleans our world, and supports living things around us. You'll notice that in all these 5 steps, we have some video links. So we have tried to give as many video links as possible to make the lessons interesting. And obviously these lessons cannot be done in one day. It takes time to go through them. So to conclude our 5 steps, then what we think to ourselves, okay, so what do we learn from here? And this is how we have integrated character education into this model. Because often in schools, there is teaching is done in separate blocks, and character is something that is just added on, and it's almost like an exercise that really doesn't have any impact. But we see here that we are going to learn some character lessons from water. So what can we learn from water? Firstly, we can learn to be useful. Everything needs water. So water is very useful. It helps plants, it helps animals, it helps people. So how can we be useful? Like water, how can we be useful? We would ask the children to list some things of what they can do, and then we would encourage them to be useful. We must be flexible. So water can be a river, it can be ice, it can be steam. So it's changing. Sometimes it changes. So sometimes being flexible is very good to accommodate the situation that you are in. And from water, we can learn teamwork, how water droplets come together to make big rivers and oceans. All the water droplets, when they get together, they make a mighty ocean. So this shows that we can do big things when we work together as a team. And this is a very beautiful way of connecting character through this topic of the water cycle. And then in the book, we have a verse to connect with the Quran. So we can see here a verse from Surah Al-Waqiyah, and we have hadith. So the hadith is about Zamzam water. And then we end with a dua. So in this dua, we say, thank you, Allah, for water so good. It's in our ponds and rivers too. It helps us, that's so true. We use it to clean, and for everything, thank you, Allah, for this gift. So we give a dua at the end. So this is just a very quick overview of an example of this methodology. So now, inshallah, what I'm going to do is show you some testimonials from some people who have been involved in our teacher training. And we have, yes, Professor?
Yeah, the video, water, remember? The 5D water.
Okay, yeah.
Let's have this one first, and then we can testimonial.
Yes, sorry. I'm going to first show you the video of the water cycle. Sabah, please tell me if when the screen starts sharing.
We can see the screen now.
Okay, I'm going to play it.
Water cycle in 5 steps. First step, explore. The water cycle is a water purification and distribution system that has continued for millions of years. It consists of 4 stages: evaporation, condensation, precipitation, and collection. This magnificent system is designed to meet the water needs of plants, animals, and humans. Fascinating facts. Every day, the sun helps evaporate 1 trillion liters of water for living beings. As rainwater seeps into the ground, it collects beneficial minerals like calcium and magnesium. A medium-sized cloud can carry up to 200 tons of water. Water from the Pacific Ocean can fall on our noses as a raindrop. Second step, compare. Did you know that Singapore developed an artificial water cycle to overcome its water shortage? This system purifies sewage water through a 5-stage process and returns it to homes as drinking water. Now, imagine a system capable of cleaning all the dirty water in the world. That is the water cycle system working for millions of years. That cycle in the air is even more incredible than the man-made water cycle on the ground because it is rebuilt every time. Imagine if clouds, like water pipes, were always suspended in the air. How ugly that would be. Third step, question. If you were to find out the Singaporean water recycling system in your house, would you say it just popped up on its own? What about the water cycle that covers the entire planet? Can it happen by itself? Can it be the work of deaf and blind nature? Do you think the sun, wind, and oceans without mind could plan something so perfect for us? Is it just a coincidence that seawater loses its salt when it falls as rain? Does river water acquire minerals by chance? Is it by luck that only 1% of all the water in the world becomes clean drinking water and falls as rain? The Singaporean system is indeed a great invention. The engineers who discovered it should be congratulated. But what about the Earth-sized water cycle that has been running for millions of years? Can that cycle be without a master? Fourth step, connect. The sun, earth, moon, atmosphere, oceans, and gravity work like a team to purify water for us. They have neither mind nor emotion to help us. They need the help of the entire universe. Of course, helpless things cannot help others. Mindless beings cannot make something better than engineers. This means that the maker of the water cycle is the maker of the earth and all that lives on it. Indeed, the one who creates living beings from water must be the one who fulfills their need for water through the miraculous water cycle. What does the water cycle tell us about its maker? My maker is the life giver who creates living beings from simple water. He is all-knowing and all-powerful who creates the water cycle for living beings in connection with the universe. He is the most merciful and the most loving who gives them water for free out of his mercy and love. Fifth step, appreciate. Imagine if your water cycle suddenly stopped. No showers, no clean dishes, no cleaning. Life would become difficult. How about if the God-sustained water cycle became disrupted? Rivers would run dry. Crops would fail without rain. Animals and humans would die. Water is a precious gift for all living beings. For the gift of water distributed to us through the water cycle, we should do 1. Dhikr. Remember that only Allah can create water and water cycle. 2. Fikr. Reflect on the wonder of constantly renewing water purification and distribution cycle. 3. Shukr. Wholeheartedly thank Allah for meeting the water needs of countless living beings with the water cycle. Let's hear some character lessons from the water cycle. Purify your soul like evaporating water droplets. Be like clean water with your words and character. Help people in need without discrimination like rain. Let's now listen to the Quran. Have you considered the water you drink? Is it you who bring it down from the clouds, or is it we who do so? If we willed, we could make it salty. Will you not then give thanks? Let's end our journey with a prayer. O Allah, grant us a heart to thank without end for countless water droplets you have sent. This wonderful cycle is a gift from above, a sign of your mercy, kindness, and love.
Alhamdulillah, that was obviously I've seen this so many times and talked about it, but still very, very inspiring. Alhamdulillah. So we have some people here, inshallah, who are going to just help us to understand what this 5D training has meant for them. And we have 2 people here, and then we have 1 recorded testimony as well. So I'm looking for Miss Sania. Yes, she's here. So Miss Sania, can you unmute yourself and open your camera as well? So
Assalamu alaikum.
Walaikum assalam. Let me just introduce you. So Sania is a PYP teacher in L'École Mondiale, is a school in Lahore. It's an IB system school. And they have been working with the 5D in this academic year since September. So we would like to hear from you about your experience with the 5D.
Okay, sure. Thank you so much. Well, this is me, Sanya Khan, and I have been a teacher for the past 15 years and an inquiry-based IB educator since 2020. Using the 5D thinking model has completely transformed my approach since I took the workshops. And the outcome of teaching, like while the mainstream education had always been very limiting, but IB teaching gave me a bigger horizon of exploration and understanding of the world, like through teaching and learning. But 5D thinking methodology opened education and teaching to a whole new dimension for me. It allowed me and my learners to have a paradigm shift and go beyond the secular ideology, actually. It also enhanced my learners' critical thinking skills through questioning to find out the ultimate reality behind the natural objects and events. I hope I'm audible.
Yes, we can hear you.
Yeah. So in my previous unit, we were studying about transportation. And while studying the unit, my student reflected on the analogy of a camel in the desert and were able to connect it to Allah's divine qualities. And similarly, after that, we were doing a unit exploring another health and body, mind, and soul. The learners reflected on the similarities and differences between Allah creation, human brain, and the man-made creation, like CPU, the man-made material. So the comparison was very good, and these comparative analysis gave me and my students the opportunity to derive divine science and conclude the fact that true science unveils God's laws in the universe. Using the 5D thinking model also made it easier for me to fulfill the mission of my school to provide best possible education, and also to mold strong religious and moral character of our younger generations. And it was now I think that it's truly a blessing to go to change my paradigm towards this, and it's truly amazing and I enjoyed it really very well.
Jazakallah khair, Sania, for taking time out of your working day today and giving us this feedback. Alhamdulillah. Would you like to just tell us how the children responded to it?
They were also amazed, and to my surprise, they were easily making connection after all this. They were able to, without even asking, they were already telling me the answers, that no, there is a maker. I was not telling them, but they were making amazing connections, which I loved it.
Okay, Jazakallah khair for that.
Thank you so much for...
Thank you. So this is what we have found from teachers around the world, that they have been they've been able to use this methodology to create really dynamic discussions in their classroom and move away from this idea where we are telling children that Allah is there, rather we are showing them. So now I'm just going to show you one of the testimonials from one of our online programs in the summer, in which Brother Asad Chaudhry, who joined us from Canada, we're going to hear his testimony, inshallah. And since then, they have, since this first meeting in online, this Brother Chaudhry also met us in Turkey, and he brought many of his colleagues with him as well. Inshallah. Brother Asad?
Yes, Jazakallah khairan. No, I'm just full of some immense gratitude, to be honest, to be part of this, 5-day journey. And I just want to echo what Brother Musa said. It's been very, very eye-opening. And I think that's kind of like the best word to use, because there's so many different aspects to how it opened up personally my eyes, and I'm sure that sentiment is felt across the virtual room here. So I wanted to start with that notable point about how grateful I am, alhamdulillah, to be part of this. I also wanted to kind of, and this is to Sister Aziza's point as well, kind of share the lens I'm looking through, right, after absorbing all of this information. And mashallah, it was quite intense, and there's quite a lot to read up on and listen to, the very engaging presentations, and try to let that bake, right, in our minds. But to Sister Aziza's point, I'm looking at the lens of, okay, so I've been involved in Islamic education for the past, the greater part of about 20 years, right? As a teacher in Islamic schools here in Canada, to vice principal, to school leadership, and now, more on the research side of things. So whenever I hear about just great things going on in the area of research and practice for specifically for Islamic schools, I think about how do we scale this, right? How do we implement the benefit that such a rich, program or structure has into our schools? Because we as adults kind of come here together and we circle around in our virtual roundtable and we have these discussions and we learn a lot from, mashallah, all of the all the panelists in these past 5 days, and then we take it home and we just think about our children. We think about, subhanallah, secular ideology and what that's doing to our children right underneath our noses without really realizing, subhanallah, the deeper effects. So now, in the past, as far as I've been involved in Islamic education, there's always been this discourse and conversation about how do we integrate Islamic education into our statewide or provincial curriculums? How do we do that, right? So we teach mathematics, we teach science, we teach English, but we want to do that through the tunnel of integration of Islam. And there's many, mashallah, there's many scholars out there that have their work in that area. I'm thinking about like Dr. Nadim Maimoun, that comes to mind, who's from Canada, now in Australia, that's done a lot of amazing work in Islamic integration. But to be honest with all of you, I've never seen anything like this. 5D thinking is not just about integrating Islam, it's about changing the ideology. It's tawheedi in nature, right? The Islamic worldview. And that just, so even before this 5-day training, I was blown away already. And subhanAllah, like I talked to a lot of different school leaders here. I know I'm taking long, so I apologize for that, but I just had to get all of this out, right? That talked to a lot of school leaders here. We have an Islamic School Association here in Canada, which is countrywide. It's really new, it's grassroots. And as we had these conversations, it was really, really like intriguing for not just myself, but many in the field. So huge jazakallah khairan for this work, Dr. Najati, yourself and the entire team. I don't want to miss anyone by name. So really the entire team that is involved in this, may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala reward you immensely, immensely, because this is exactly the area that it's almost like I have the question, like, where have you been all my life, right? Like, because it's really, truly exactly an eye-opener. So I'm going to go back to my question, inshallah, maybe it'll be food for.
Okay, so I just wanted to share that part of his feedback. Now, finally, we have, before we tell you about this amazing teacher training program, we'll hear from Brother Mustafa. Brother Mustafa is here. Can you unmute and open your video if possible?
Assalamu alaikum, sisters.
Walaikum assalam. How are you?
Fine, thank you. Good morning.
Good morning. Brother, we have some people here who are going to be, inshallah, enrolling in our teacher training program and some who are thinking about enrolling. So how can you motivate them to join us? What's your experience?
Thank you very much for the opportunity. I think it's been a very, very great experience. It's been challenging. It's a lot of hard work, but I think the fruits of the hard work are very, very pleasing when you begin to see them. As Brother Charia Assad said, it was a wow thing, opening your eyes to unveiling more. Like was more like unveiling the hidden agenda in the way our children, in the way we were taught and our children were taught. I think that's a thing. It opens your eyes to see, because really reality is science has made things that ought to be looked at miracle look very simple at best. A child will look at photosynthesis or a cow producing milk and doesn't think too much about a cow producing milk. And the child will think, oh yeah, cows all produce photosynthesis is nothing. There's no big deal about photosynthesis or a cow producing milk. So this 5D is such that it opens the child to see that in reality that these things that are ordinary, that we see ordinary, are produced from the tree of the universe. When I took this 5D model to my school here in Nigeria, one of the things I did was to encourage the Christian teachers to join my session. And it was well received by them, because they also woke up. It was as if they've been sleeping all their lives throughout their years of education, and they didn't resist it, they embraced it, because it encouraged them to see the hand of the Creator in everything that has been created. I think that's very, very important, that our children should be raised to see the miracle in everything around and in themselves. I think that's what 5D does for them to see life as a miracle itself. You know, I think that's a wonderful thing to do. And we didn't get that opportunity growing up. We were secularized. And so the 5D unveils the secular agenda in our education. I think the more than anything, that's very, very important in the way we raise our children. I think interestingly, when I raised the verse of the Bible to them, where it says we are supposed to raise our children to see the miracle in the way to see miracle in everything that's been created. The risk that if you do that, then that will connect them to their creator. I think that's something that I saw from the internet that I shared with our Christian brothers, and they were like, wow. So it connected them to the theme of the 5D, and they embraced it. And many of them are using it in their own way, bringing up using Bible verses to make the connections. So I would say I will encourage you to open your hearts and minds to what, inshallah, our facilitators are going to show, inshallah. So thank you for opportunity. I just came from a lesson this morning, and where I was trying to get the kids to look at the atom and have them understand that, do you know, there are character lessons that can be gotten from the atom and the way the atom behaves. They argued back and forth that there's no character lesson to be gotten from the atoms. But at the end of the day, I told them next week when we meet, I will prove to them that there are lessons that we can take, character lessons we can take from atoms. So these are some of the things that 5D does, that we can learn from the things that have been created by Allah and that we see all around us. So thank you very much for this opportunity. Sorry if I went beyond 5 minutes.
Jazakallah khair. No, that's a very comprehensive feedback. Thank you so much for taking the time to join us. So Brother Mustafa was also in Turkey with us in August. So alhamdulillah, we have done many programs online and on site in many parts of the world. And now we want to come to Malaysia. So Dr. Najati is going to tell you about the kind of programs that we offer, inshallah.
Can you see my slide?
Yes, we can.
Okay, thank you very much, everyone. I think it was really very good testimonials, particularly for from those Sister Sania and Brother Mustafa. So I want to briefly mention about the programs, so we are planning, inshallah, to be in Kuala Lumpur on January 27 and 28. And our objective, essentially, that we try to, through this 2-day program, to really have what we call the 5D, present 5D thinking as a way of transformative teaching. It's not informational, it's transformational. And this is our objective that we really aim to accomplish through the programs, that when you learn about the 5D and use that will ignite curiosity among the kids through the use of 5D workbooks, and they will be able to distinguish fact from ideology in science in particular, in education in general. They can use critical thinking as a way of being vaccinated against materialistic ideology. And they can go beyond the 4-dimensional reality and discover the 5th dimension, the Malakut dimension, in which that they can see the divine hand behind everything. They can perceive science as a divine science, as a science of God, or studying the science of God. So they will have a positive view of science in this regard. And they can learn how to read the universe like a wisdom-filled book, an elegant book. They can ascend to the level of ihsan, as is well-known hadith, and through the 5 steps in which they can actually feel the presence of Allah and have this state of khushu. And they can observe the divine names in creation and connect what they learn to the certain divine names manifested there. And they can derive certain character lessons from the property of creation. And ultimately, we expect them to have more love for learning and to be more successful through the 5D methodology, particularly through the use of analogy. So the program that we design will have 3 stages. The first stage will have 2 days, 12 hours training that will provide the 5D thinking essentials. And the second stage, that those who go through the first stage and want to continue, we will provide them 4 days additional 24 hours of training to have them to gain a comprehensive understanding of the model. And those who go through all this and want to even go further, we want them to join our mentors or coach program to be the leader in promoting the model. The first stage, that's 2-day one. So essentially, we're going to provide the essentials with the practical classroom application. If you join to this program, you're expected to gain a fundamental understanding of the 5D thinking model and its essential, and learn how to effectively integrate this approach in your teaching using our 5D thinking workbooks. As I mentioned, that we already have, we published 2, and we have 5 more coming. So kindergarten to grade 6 are ready to be used in classroom. If you join us in the first program and want to enhance yourself, so we'll have 4 days, possibly in February in Kuala Lumpur, or we might have online weekend classes. We'll decide based on who wants to really continue on that. So this will provide more comprehensive ideas about the model. We'll tell you about the pedagogical, philosophical, and theological reasoning behind the model. And you will not only learn how to use it, you will learn even how to write yourself and implement in your own area. That's the objective behind the second one. And again, if you want to go further, we want to have a mentoring program for mentors, possibly this summer in Istanbul. So in that case, we will get the leaders from different countries that will come together and will provide them, in this case, education or training for mentoring and coaching skills to guide, support, and inspire others in adopting and applying the principle of 5D thinking model in their educational context. For our, again, 2-day programs, this is the program outline. And we designed the program in a way every day. You can see we're going to start at 9 a.m. and finish at 5 p.m. So we'll have in total 4 lectures and activity. And every lectures will have like around 45-minute lectures and then activity. And activity will be from 5D thinking workbooks, the 3 workbooks that will basically print out, take the copy of relevant chapters. We'll plan to cover 6 chapters, 2 chapters from each workbook, and through which we will show you directly how the model can be used and how we use the model for in-class activities. And this is the second day. So we will have, again, at the end of the Kahoot quiz, and you can see here, so we design in a way, we have a diverse number of individuals. Dr. Colin Turner will be there, Dr. Al-Paslan will be there. We have, several peoples will helping in understanding and applying the model. And this is the second day. And then, that's all basically. Again, and after that, we will conduct a survey and to see how you are interested, and based on that, I will decide what to do for the 4-day program. That's all I can say. I think now it is time for question and answer. If you have any question, you can post it in chat box, or you can raise your hand, directly ask your question. And so we'll if you somehow join us late, the program is recorded. We'll share with you the recording on YouTube, so you can watch yourself and share with others as well, and along with information on how to register for the programs at the end of this month. Yes, any comments or questions?
Assalamu alaikum.
Alaikum salam.
I'm very happy today for this fantastic program. Will give, every person an idea about the stages and also the outcomes of the program. So I think it is very good opportunity for everybody who can come to Malaysia, to Kuala Lumpur, to attend this 2 days program and have an idea. And it is not enough the 2 days, but it is a starting point. Then he can continue to get the certificate of trainee of this program. So I'm very happy this morning that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala make it easy for every person to attend and to see. I want to ask every person to take this recording video of this program to send it to school, who can register for coming to Malaysia for the 2-day programs. Everything is very, inshallah, well prepared. Housing prepared, the place for the program prepared. Everything is, inshallah, you can make it very easy to attend this program. So I ask Allah first to help you, and then you, inshallah, we will enjoy you together, inshallah. Alhamdulillah, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala make it easy for me. Yesterday, I did the reservation for the ticket and for the hostel. Inshallah, I will be in 23 January before the program, 3 days, to look after the program and to see everything is okay, to have to start, inshallah, on Saturday, 27. Thank you, Dr. Najati, sister, every person did excellent job for today. And we want to hear from the participant who will participate for the first time.
Thank you very much, Dr. Abdul Razak. Dr. Abdul Razak is actually joining us from Mecca, and he is a retired professor from Al University. His area is teacher training. And when he was visiting Turkey this summer, someone told him about a 5D. And when he came back and, he got in touch with me and he, kindly came to Riyadh and spent 3 days to have one-to-one discussion on the model. And after that, he decided to, dedicate, inshallah, rest of his life to this great cause. And he has really, good intention, inshallah, to do something and have organize some training even in Mecca, inshallah. So don't be surprised if you see in the future we're going to have some program in Mecca. Then you can have an opportunity to do Umrah and also joining the program as well. And so from his own experience, he helped us a lot, and actually he is really very instrumental in designing this training program through one of the organizations that he is leading. So we're really, really thankful to Allah and to him for this great contribution, great support. Okay. Any questions or any comments from anyone? Any things that you want to ask, or any things you want to say? Please, now the floor is yours, and just raise your hands. We'll let you to speak, inshallah. Okay. So No comment, no question. So that's inshallah is a good sign. That means everything is clear, and then we can the questions about again enrollment. Oh, yes, it seems like yes. Go ahead, please, Soliha.
Yes, Assalamualaikum, Prof. And on participant, actually, I was your student online last year. Alhamdulillah, and I follow and I try to introduce this methodology to the Thai teacher in Thailand. And as you have been conduct many seminar, what is the most what you call obstacle or the problem that for the teacher to run this methodology in which state that is the problem for the teacher?
Yeah, very good.
Jazakallahu khairan.
Thank you very much, mashallah. It's good, excellent. So basically, I think what we're hearing, the main part is, and maybe Sister Uzma can also contribute on that as well. But what I heard from the teacher is they try to first their reactions. We have a curriculum, we have a lot of things cover, and how can we really have additional things? So that's really their main concern. But I think what we find out. It is as long as the teachers understand the model and go through a good training, they find a way to integrate into their teaching. As you know, the famous saying, if there is a will, there is a way. So initially they tell us that there is no way, we already have a lot of things, we can't do that. But once they go through the training, they really understand this is bring a great added value to their teaching. They really find a way. We don't really see a big issue because what we cover is very much parallel to what they have in their curriculum. It can be easily integrated and covered along with what they do. So it's not like they can spread out. They don't have to do in one day or 1 week. I think what we suggest to them to do in 2 weeks for one topic. But we do actually provide in the training, we do provide, guidance in terms of how they can integrate. That's really what I heard a lot from teachers. I don't know, Sister Uzma, anything you want to
add? Yes, mashallah. What I feel when I do training with the teachers is that they, firstly for themselves, there's a lot of self-reflection on their understanding of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So there's a lot of self-development that goes on through this training. And then definitely in order to present different ideas to children, the teachers get a very clear vision. One of the main comments that we get after training in schools, spending a few days in schools with teachers, is that there are 5 clear steps to follow, and each step has its own objective. And in each step, you can build up towards this understanding, and then the children also start to alhamdulillah understand this. And really the whole point about the 5D thinking model is to equip us with ideas, thoughts and thought processes to help us whenever we see a creation of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to actually appreciate it, because we understand that it's a creation, and through that also strengthen our connection with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So I think that teachers all around the world are benefiting a lot, alhamdulillah. And now with the workbooks that we are producing, they're going to be able to have an excellent resource as well. And we would also like, from the participants who are here, who will join us, or who have already previously done our programs, we would like you to come on board with our team and help us make lesson plans, resources, videos, these kind of things, so that we can provide as much material as possible to teachers, inshallah. In the chat, I've shared the registration form for this Kuala Lumpur program. So please, if you are in the area or you are able to reach there and you want to register, please fill in that form. Then I've also shared a WhatsApp group invite link. So if you would like to stay in touch with us and know about more of our events, then you can also just click on that link and it will take you to our WhatsApp group.
Okay, thank you very much. Any other questions or comments from anyone?
Excuse me, Prof, one more question. I think that the teacher should have a deep background, Islamic background, or comprehension about Asma'ul Husna very well, right?
Yeah, I think there are, you know, again, that's what we find out, that in the teacher training is absolute must for our model to be implemented properly, because we find out that, like, I remember in one case in South Africa, when we actually have the teacher to implement, the teacher sent us a comment. She said, "This book is for me first." And she was very, you know, candid to confess and saying that I needed this first, and I see the benefit for myself, you know, then I actually share with my students. And I think we see the same things in many places. So it's really essential we get the teachers to go through the training. And when we go through the training, we not only provide like the background for the Asma al-Husna, we actually provide the, you know, like, let's say on the Kuala Lumpur training, we'll have a session by Dr. Colin Turner on the divine names and how would you find the Jamali name and Jalali names in the universe. And he really works and wrote it on this subject very well. So we provide, we'll have certain sessions to really get teachers to understand deeply those concepts and idea before they go and use the workbooks and explain to their students. Yeah, and I think the answer to your question, yes, there is a need, but that need is really, even if they have some background, we really feel the teacher training is necessary to provide this foundational framework on which they can go and actually use and apply the model. Any other comments or questions? Okay.
So we can end this program today with the thank of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, who helped us to have this program. And we hope and ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to help us to have the 2 days program in an excellent way. وما توفيقي إلا بالله. سبحانك لا علم لنا إلا ما علمتنا إنك أنت العليم الحكيم. وآخر دعوانا أن الحمد لله رب العالمين. الفاتحة. مالك يوم الدين إياك نعبد وإياك نستعين اهدنا الصراط المستقيم صراط الذين أنعمت عليهم غير المغضوب عليهم ولا الضالين. وصلى الله على سيدنا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين. Thank you for everybody. Thank you, Dr. Najati, also sister from Pakistan, for every person who joined us today. Wassalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Alaikum salam. Thanks, everyone. We hope to see you, inshallah, all, yeah, most, if not all, in Kuala Lumpur at the end of this month. Thank you very much and have a great day.
Assalamualaikum.
Assalamu alaikum.
Alaikum salam.